Actually, I wanted to make sure that it's all right for me to do this. There is a book I came across in the library that is a really good introductory example of what atheism is. Is it all right to mention the title?
Oh, sure, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Title is Atheism, a Reader. It's edited by S.T. Joshi.
Yes, got that. Yeah. Go ahead, though.
But, I thought that is a good thing, perhaps, to mention people that are asking a lot of these questions that you may not, have enough time to answer all their questions.
Yeah.
And, of course, one of the quotes that it has from Ambrose Bierce that is, as his usually sardonic answer, is, It is the peculiar distinction of atheism to be nothing at all. The atheist, as such, has no belief. To say he believes that there is no God is inaccurate. He merely does not believe there is God.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's...
It's a detailed point, but a pretty important one, yeah.
The... Also, that there's another reference that a lot of atheists are very fond of. It's by George Smith. It's a book called Atheism: The Case Against God, and he also makes that point that it's the distinction of having a positive, active belief that there is no God versus simply refraining from belief in a God due to the fact that you haven't found any compelling evidence to give you a reason to do so, right? And there is that distinction to be made between strong atheism and weak atheism. I mean, I have encountered atheists, and we talk to them on our mailing list all the time, and I've encountered these guys who will say, I believe that there are no gods. I affirm that there are no gods. So those atheists exist. Right. And some of them actually have worthwhile arguments to back their points up. But I would agree with you and with Ambrose Bierce in that it's not really a necessary position for atheists to take. It is sufficient simply to say, it's just as if, Farmer Brown comes to me and he tells me that a UFO landed in his pasture last night. Well, it's not my job to tell Farmer Brown, I affirm that this did not and could not and never will happen. There are no aliens, there never were any aliens. No, I mean, all I have to do is say, Farmer Brown, show me your evidence, please. I'd very much like for you to prove that, because it's an interesting claim. Oh, well, I can't. The tracks all got, the tread marks got washed away in the rain last night. The footprints, they didn't have footprints because they hovered through the air in little jetpacks. So it's like, well, Farmer Brown, if you can't present me with your evidence, I will choose not to believe in your aliens. Maybe you were hitting the moonshine a little too hard last night. I mean, what's the more, so lacking evidence for an extraordinary claim, deciding not to believe is a perfectly rational position to take. And if you get that evidence, and you find it compelling, then you can change your mind and go, well, gee whiz, I guess I was wrong. Maybe there is an alien. Maybe there are leprechauns. Maybe there is a God in the sky. But I haven't encountered that atheist yet. So,
exactly.
But it's a worthwhile distinction to make. And I'm sure you were listening to Ashley earlier when he said that every single Christian book that he encountered in that Christian bookstore, every time they mentioned atheism, they gave that strong atheist definition. Is that all atheism is a belief that there are
no God. Yeah.
That's all I come across myself, not only in the books, but in talking with people. That's the stance that any believers tend to have that I've come across.
Yeah. Because it's an easy one to strike down. And,
exactly.
Have you been to Utah? No. Well, how do you know God isn't there?
How do you know there's a Utah?
Exactly.
If you haven't been to Utah, how do you know Utah exists?
We've had that caller. How do you know Japan exists? And so that's beside the point. You can't. It depends on the definition that you're using of God. And again, a lot of times that's kind of the sticking point. If you want to say, I am hard atheist, I will affirm that God does not exist, depending on how you define God. But, given a lack of a concise definition of what you mean by God, I'm only going to say that I'm an atheist, I choose not to believe it. Because until you provide me with a really good definition,
and then compelling evidence.
There's nothing that I can do about it.
Like that.
So, yeah.
And one other thing that I wanted to mention earlier, when you were talking about the different denominations and the beliefs in hell and such, and I believe it was Martin had said that some, of course, believe that it's just a separation from God. I think one of the most simply eloquent statements of that is from Marlowe's Dr. Faustus, where Faust asks Mephistopheles how he can be in hell and tempting him here on earth at the same time, and Mephistopheles' reaction is simply, why, this is him, nor am I out of it. You know, that's putting it very simply.
Yeah.
So it's a belief that's been around for quite a while, but I haven't seen too many modern references to that sort of belief.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's.
If this world right now is hell, well, send me to it for all eternity. I don't mind.
I mean, you know,
not that bad.
Got its, I mean, it's got a few bad points, but you know, I mean,
Of course,
good too.
what they're aiming at is
yeah.
the complete separation from the Creator being such a hellish thing because...
Because their definition is anything good is God.
Right.
Therefore, that
cannot
cup of
be
coffee
separated.
you have in the morning that you enjoy, that's God.
Yeah, God made those beans.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
And so.
Yes, didn't Robert Heinlein kind of had that behind his mind in Stranger in a Strange Land?
Boy, I haven't read that in 20 years almost. I got to dig that back out. But I think he had several aphorisms to that effect in like the Notebooks of Lazarus Long.
Yes.
And that sort of thing. So, good points all. But yeah, thanks for bringing that up because I actually want to. You know, I've got that Joshi book like sitting on a bottom shelf somewhere, and I really would like to dig it out again. And you know, I should probably stick my nose into Dr. Faustus because that's and Goethe. You know, the Faust story about because you know just fun little morality tales. And,
Well, they're both beautifully written.
they are. Yes, absolutely.
At any rate, you guys take care.
All
Okay.
right. Thank you.
Thanks for calling.